We are recording.
Thank you, Son. So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. The February 15th, 2023 meeting of the Seattle City Council's Public Assets and Homelessness Committee will come to order. It is 2:01 p.m. I'm Andrew Lewis, Chair of the committee. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Herbold. Council President Juarez.
Here.
Councilmember Morales.
Here.
Councilmember Mosqueda. Chair Lewis.
Present.
Chair, there are 3 members present.
And Councilmember Herbold did indicate that she would be a little late to today's committee meeting. We will proceed with approval of the agenda. If there's no objection, the agenda will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the agenda is adopted. Public comment. The clerk will moderate the public comment period in the manner that we have come accustomed to as a council. Mr. Clerk, how many public commenters do we have both virtually and in person?
Mr. Chair, we have 2 in-person public commenters and we have 3 public commenters who've called in.
Okay, we will take the in-person public commenters first, and then the virtual public commenters, public comment time will be set at 2 minutes.
Our first in-public commenter is Ajane Smith. Ajane, if you would approach the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to give comment.
Hello. How are you guys doing today? I'm really here to talk about homelessness. I guess I can't say I don't particularly care about public assets, but I also just want to remind you guys, while you're thinking about your recreational parks and your public assets, maybe publicly make your homeless people assets as well, because your lower class and your people are assets to the city of Seattle as well. We know that they partake in drugs. We know that they are not welcome in the parks. They're not welcome in the streets. They're not welcome certain places. And I don't understand why we're talking about recreational parks or admitting somebody to the council about that, or I'm not very sure. I can't say that that's directly what this is about, but I feel like we need to be talking about something way more important than recreational parks. You guys have a nice day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Our next public commenter in person is Alex Zimmerman. Alex, you will have 2 minutes at the podium.
Thank you. Zeke Heil, my dirty damn Nazi Gestapo democracy fascist, a mob and psychopath. My name Alex Zimmerman, and I always staying here with my red sign in yellow David star. Yeah, I want to speak about parks. Seattle have too many parks, but I don't think so is park good for everybody. And exactly for people who in bottom, you know what it means? Homeless too. It's not only homeless, it's many. 100,000 people who have low income, have a collar and everything. But not too many color right now in Seattle. For example, black move out. Yep, so they cannot use this park, and they pay for park for taxes for many years, for my understanding. So how is this possible? You know what I mean? They move out right now, and you keep the money, yeah, and they asking for compensation for 400 years, but right now it's very close, and I don't understand why. It's a little bit surprised me. I'm the Democrat, mafia, fascism, controlling, you know what I mean, average salary in Seattle right now, income is approximately $120,000. Who can afford to live in Seattle right now when rent approximately jumped 30% only for last couple of years, 30+ percentage for last couple of years? So my question to you, Consul, you know what I mean? Not personal to you, to this all 9 crooks and idiot who sit in this chamber, you know what I mean? What is supposed to be clean? Totally. Because by definition, this is a mentally sick psychopath. When I call this a Nazi pig, you know what it means? It's exactly. You kill people, by definition, you are killer. Stand up, America, need clean this chamber from this criminal, from this bandito in killer. Thank you very much.
I just want to state for the record that Councilmember Herbold has joined the meeting. And Mr. Clerk, it seems like Councilmember Mosqueda, it looks like Councilmember Mosqueda has also.
Councilmember Mosqueda did not receive a correct Zoom link. She has one now and has joined the meeting.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Councilmember Mosqueda. Glad that we were able to get you in here. So let the record reflect those council members are in attendance.
We will now move to the virtual public comment session. Our first virtual public commenter is Jessica Farmer. Jessica, you will need to press *6 to unmute, and then you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Farmer. I am the co-chair of the Board of Park and Recreation Commissioners. And I'm just calling in today to extend a hearty welcome to today's nominees for new and returning members of the board. Our board is a wonderful group of community members representing a wide variety of ages, identities, and life experiences. And we bring our professional and our personal perspectives to our volunteer roles as advisors to the department and our elected officials regarding policies for planning, development, and use of the city's park and recreation facilities, as well as the projects and programs and services provided for by the Seattle Park District. I was so happy to see Pascual Contreras nominated to return for his first full term on the board. Pascual initially joined us early last year, and he took a leadership role in our board's deliberations to offer recommendations for the current 6-year funding cycle of the Seattle Park District. Pascual is currently supporting planning efforts to showcase our city and county as we host the Greater Greener Conference next year. And Pascual, I just want to say I've really appreciated your insightful contributions and your dedication to supporting the work of Seattle Parks and Recreation. And Andrea and Joshua, I am excited to get to know you. I enjoyed reading your nomination packets, and I'm sure that your backgrounds and experience will enrich our board discussions and our contributions to guide the work of the department in the coming years. So I just want to offer my endorsement here and thank both my fellow board members and the council members for your support of Seattle Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Jessica. Our next public commenter is Erica Bigelow. Erica, you'll need to press *6 to speak, and then you'll have 2 minutes.
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hello, my name is Erica Bigelow, and I was calling to comment on the encampment that is located under I-5 in Wallingford. It's been called the Ship Canal encampment. It's also been called the Pasadena encampment. And this has been, I know, a complicated location because it was a little bit murky about who actually owned the property it's on, but I believe it's Washington State property. And earlier in the fall, last fall, it was authority was given to the King County Regional Homelessness Authority to manage this encampment. And the word at the time, this was back in October, was that as soon as the Northgate encampment was, they were working on that at the time, as soon as they had finished with that, that they'd be moving to this encampment. After that, it kind of went radio silent. There was very little information being shared with the neighborhood. And there was a lot of bad behavior happening, most recently a shooting, another shooting. There's been 3 there. This is a half a block from John Stanford International School, an elementary school that's had to go on lockdown a number of times because of behavior from this encampment. The street that this is on, or that the encampment is between, it's between 5th, and then there's I-5 and then 7th on the other side. And there's a lot, you know, with all of the discussion of affordable housing, one thing that has been quite frustrating about this is that there are mainly rentals alongside both those streets, and it has been untenable for a lot of people to remain in those houses. So a lot of the houses on 5th have been empty. There have been fires lit by squatters in these houses, and it has felt like because there weren't businesses bordering these neighborhoods. And so there weren't business owners, producing some pressure to get something done, that a lot of the concerns of the neighbors were ignored. And there was not a lot of motion forward on this. Now, recently, Como did a piece on this area, and I know that there are now
Thank you, Erica. Your time has expired. If you would like to give further public comments, please email the full council at the email address listed on the public comment sign up sheet. Mr. Chair, our final public commenter is Jacqueline Siska. Jacqueline, please press *6 and then begin speaking when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Siska, and I'm speaking today as a parent of children who attend the John Stanford International Elementary School in Wallingford, a school which is located by the Pasadena encampment on a washed-out right-of-way directly under I-5, just north of the Montlake Canal. Yesterday, I attended the Public Safety Committee meeting and appreciated Councilman Lewis's questions to the police chief, pledging his interest in quickly and properly rehousing members of unsafe encampments where violence is prevalent. Over the last several months, there have been fires, murders, drug dealing, all within a stone's throw of our community school. Several houses on the street have been burned down, and on Monday, several car windows were smashed. According to the SPD 2022 crime report, this area in particular is one of the more dense spots for gun violence in North Seattle. The encampment has grown significantly during the last few months, from a quoted 6 people in November to 25 to 30 people living there now, and there is clearly a large amount of illegal dumping happening. I know that the King County Regional Homelessness Authority is the entity responsible for this encampment using funds provided by the state, and it is in this committee's scope to coordinate with King County Regional Homelessness Authority on their plan. It's clear that the RHA is unable to fulfill the commitment of their MOU with the state. I'm asking for the City Council to step in regards to this site. So far, the city has not taken action due to the encampment being on the washout right of way. It is not acceptable for the city to sit by and watch as this encampment becomes bigger, more dangerous for those inside, those who live in the neighborhood, and the students and staff at John Stanford International School. Now is not the time for waiting. It is time for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Mr. Chair, there are no more community members signed up for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Clerk, the chair will now close the comment period and we'll move on to our items of business. Will the clerk please read item 1 into the record?
Item 1, appointment 02458. The appointment of Joshua Seafried as member to the Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners for a term to March 31st, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We are joined by Deputy Director Christopher Williams from Seattle Parks and Recreation to present on the appointment. Christopher, would you please introduce yourself and then go ahead and introduce the nominee?
Sure. Thank you so much for allowing us to do this today. I'm Christopher Williams, Chief of Staff, Seattle Park and Recreation Department, and we are fortunate to have Joshua Seafried here with us, expressing interest in becoming a member of the Board of Park and Recreation Commissioners. This is one of the most, I think, time-consuming commitments for volunteers to be part of the Board of Park and Recreation Commissioners. So we really appreciate Joshua's interest. Joshua is a landscape architect and urban designer with a passion for transformative projects in the public realm. He's been instrumental in designing a number of parks as part of his development work. He previously worked in New York and has been involved in the Highline project, the 18th Street Plaza, the Detroit West Riverfront project, as well as projects in Bellevue and Quincy, Washington. He is now a resident of Seattle, and we are excited to have his extensive landscape design expertise on the board. Joshua believes that urban parks are a critical component to the success of the city and health of its residents. In his application, he noted that parks are also increasingly evolving their role in cities beyond just places for recreation. Parks are becoming places for demonstrations, places for community expression, places for safety and refuge, and places for the proliferation of nature and otherwise urban conditions. He is an ardent user of the Seattle Park system, whether it's cycling through Discovery Park, strolling along the central waterfront or Alki Beach, or taking in the city at night from atop Kite Hill at Gasworks Park. So we are pleased to present Joshua, and I will maybe turn it over to Joshua to say a few words about his interest.
Sure, if I can unmute myself. Thank you, Christopher. Yeah, I'm out of the country right now, so it's I'm very happy that I can be here with you all. And I think just to reiterate something Christopher said, one of my my main interests for being a part of this body is sort of the way I've been seeing and we've been seeing in our profession the evolution of what a park is, and what a park means to a city, and just how important that is, right? That it goes beyond just serving recreational functions. And so I just look forward to sort of bringing that passion, that energy to this board as Seattle sort of, embarks on its sort of next journey of what parks and recreation means in the city.
Great.
Well, Joshua, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and thank you for your passion for this work and for coming forward to serve in this capacity. As you take this on and move forward to be part of the city family, advising us on this important work, what's one of the big things you're really looking forward to as a project to move forward in collaboration with us on the council and with Superintendent Williams and our leadership in the department?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm gonna just sort of, I don't know if it's any one project, but I think it's sort of representative of one of the struggles Parks is facing. I live in Ballard, and I'm new there, so I don't know the exact name of every place, but I think it's Ballard Commons, that park by the QFC there, right? And I think a lot of folks are aware of the struggle that park has gone through. And right now I walk by a fenced off park, right? And I think that sends a lot of different messages. And I think as a Parks and Rec board, right, we're not just talking about swings and play anymore. Like there are very real issues we're sort of grasping with and figuring out how to unpack these and challenge them. Like that to me is what's really exciting.
Well, Joshua, thank you. And thank you for lifting up Ballard Commons Park. That's definitely a priority for the department, priority for the council. Councilmember Strauss is not on this committee, but I'm sure he somewhere out there in the force heard your remarks and is grateful for them. That's something that we're working on together. And I'm sure that his office and ours will welcome that partnership. Are there any other questions from council colleagues for Joshua? All right, seeing none, why don't we go ahead and vote on the appointment? So I'm going to move that the committee recommend. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Herbold, did you?
I'm just getting ready.
Oh, okay, all right. See, Joshua, that's good. That bodes well here for your chances. Okay, I'm just going to say that. So, I move the committee recommend passage of appointment 02458. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll on the passage of the appointment?
Councilmember Herbold.
Yes.
Council President Juarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Morales.
Yes.
Councilmember Mosqueda.
Aye.
Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Chair, there are 5 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The appointment passes and will be referred to the next full council meeting, Tuesday, February 21st. Joshua, thank you. And you don't need to attend that meeting if you don't want to. You are, of course, welcome to attend it, but it is not mandatory that you come on the 21st. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all.
Okay, will the clerk please read item 2 into the record?
Item 2, appointment 02457, the reappointment of Pascual Contreras as member to the Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners for a term to March 31st, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and we are joined by Chief of Staff Williams for this agenda item as well. So, Chief of Staff Williams, I will hand it over to you to introduce the nominee for reappointment.
All right, and maybe I'll just lead in with Pascual Contreras demonstrated a deep level of engagement when the park board was making recommendations to the department. In fact, there was one point where I couldn't tell if he was a staff person or a volunteer. He was so deeply engaged in the technical nuances of some of the recommendations. Pascual works at the University of Washington in project management and has a degree in real estate and urban development. He joined the board in 2022, and soon afterwards, he played a critical role in the Park District financial plan process, chairing one of the funding prioritization subcommittees. We are excited to have his knowledge, expertise, and contributions on the board for the next 3 years. Pascual grew up in a Mexican-American neighborhood in Central California, where he found the neighborhood suffered from a lack of investment in open areas and trees. He and his family would travel great distances to find outdoor areas. He moved to the Pacific Northwest for the abundance of green space and outdoor activities. So I'll pause right here and turn it over to Pascual to say a little bit more about himself. Oh, you're muted, Pascual. Still muted. Does he have to press *6 to unmute or something?
Potentially.
Okay.
Pascual, if you've called in on your phone, you should try pressing
Headphones are the
*6.
issue.
Hey, there you go. We can hear you.
Okay. So my name is Pascual. Thank you all for waiting through that technical issue. I have been so fortunate to participate in the past few months of the Board of Commissioners as an at-large member, and we have run through so much of the current offerings of the Parks Department, and I have just been so I've been so grateful to participate in some small way in the work that is being completed with over 489 parks. Really, Seattle is a unique place where you can pretty much find any outdoor activity within the city limits. And being a part of this group has allowed me to learn so much more about how it functions, and also give my thanks to all of the employees who keep the parks available for all.
Well, Pascual, thank you so much. Why don't we start just by reflecting a little bit on some of the projects you've worked on during your most recent term on the board, and maybe some of the outreach, some of the work in the lead up to the Metropolitan Park District, or some of these other areas where there's been collaboration. What's something reflecting back on your service that we've been able to move forward together through the work of the commission, and what's something as you look forward to this next term that we can build on?
I think that may seem small, but one of my priorities in the last budget cycle process was funding not just new projects, but reinvesting in existing buildings throughout, and setting that priority from the Board of Commissioners was really important to me. There's so much historic stock within the parks, and just seeing those continue to live on and move forward to serve future generations was so important for me.
Well, I'm really looking forward to continuing to build on that, and couldn't agree more with you. Are there any other questions here from council colleagues? Okay, seeing none, really excited to reconfirm Mr. Contreras today It's been so great working with everybody involved in Parks and Recreation, especially in that lead up to the Metropolitan Park District. And the outreach really was considerable to the community. And the nominee today can take a good share of credit for that work. And as we implement over the course of the next several years, we can all take a lot of pride in the result of that collective work. So I'm glad you're going to stick around with us and continue to serve. So thank you. I don't see any additional comments or questions, so I'm going to go ahead and move passage of appointment 02457. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll on the passage of the appointment?
Councilmember Herbold,
Yes.
Council President Juarez,
Aye.
Councilmember Morales,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosqueda,
Aye.
Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Chair, there are 5 in favor, none opposed.
The appointment passes and will be referred to the next full council meeting, which is Tuesday, February 21st. Just as a reminder, as I mentioned in the past appointment, it's not required that you attend that hearing, but you are certainly more than welcome to if you want to. You're a reappointment, so you know the drill on that. But thank you so much for coming by today, and appreciate the ability to renominate you and look forward to continuing to work together. So thank you so much. All right, will the clerk please read item 3 into the record?
Item 3, appointment 02459. The appointment of Andrea A. Stewart-Lahali as a member to the Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners for a term to March 31st, 2025.
And Deputy Director Williams, I will turn it back over to you to introduce our nominee.
Great, thank you, council member. It occurred to me that I may have been remiss in mentioning that Pascual Contreras would represent District 3, and Joshua Seyfried would would be an at-large representative on the Board of Park and Recreation Commissioners. So now I'd like to introduce Andrea Stewart-Lahali, who will represent D2. In addition to her position as Chief of Staff to the Chief Safety Officer of Sound Transit, Andrea has served in a variety of roles in music and visual arts in the Pacific Northwest, including on the board of Washington Film Works and as a director of the Seattle Black Film Festival. Andrea grew up enjoying the parks and open space in her native Maryland, and during COVID-19 pandemic, she and her family found refuge, respite, love, and joy in the parks and playgrounds of Seattle. In her application, she noted that Seattle's park spaces are essential to her family and thousands of others in Seattle. In order to connect, learn, relax, and thrive, as Seattle continues to grow and equity and access for all are continually challenged, and sees serving on the board as an opportunity to help ensure equality and improve access to natural spaces and growth experiences for youth and people of all ages. So with that, I will welcome Andrea and turn the mic over to her to say a few things about herself.
Thank you so much, Christopher, and thank you all very much. I'm deeply honored to be here today. And as Christopher pointed out, my background does come more from the mobility space and the cultural arts space, but really passionate about access and equity in our natural spaces. As a Black person, there is definitely a fraught history of Black people in natural spaces and with the out of doors. And that's something that I have appreciated addressing and speaking to through the cultural access work that I've done and the mobility work. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to stretch more officially, if we say concretely, into spaces where I can do similar advocacy and activism work about Black and Brown people and having spaces where they can exercise ownership over their recreation and over the things that are fulfilling. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. So in your position at Sound Transit, working with them on some of their public safety strategies, I think that'll be an interesting skill set for some of the work that we're doing with parks. One of the things that we routinely get in a lot of the surveys and outreach that we have done and that the commission has been involved in has indicated that increasingly safety in parks is a big issue for members of the community. And I wonder if you have any initial thoughts, strategies, ways we can work together to make progress on those very real concerns community members have, and what kind of recommendations you would bring to bear to make progress on that.
And similarly, I'm very excited about the intersection of what my day job, if you will, brings to the table as I speak to a passion for creating access for people, and Black and brown people in particular. Safety is a big part of that, because having access to something, if you do not feel that sense of ownership that it is your space and it is a space where you are safe to use that space, that's definitely an important part of the picture. In terms of tactics, I believe that there are a number of community conversations that I've been involved in and that our teams are involved in that are not only, I believe the most interesting thing actually to explore is really meeting people in the communities and talking to them about what's unsafe and what do we need to change and how do we change it for you. So just in general speaking, I look forward to exploring and learning more from the communities about what's missing and having community perspectives about how we address safety and security problems that people are experiencing in the parks. So
thank you for that. We very much look forward to your partnership on those really important questions. Are there any additional questions or remarks on the appointment in front of the committee? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and move this appointment. So I move the committee recommend passage of appointment 02459. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Herbold,
Yes.
Council President Juarez,
Aye.
Councilmember Morales,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosqueda,
Aye.
Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Chair, there are 5 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. The appointment passes and will be referred to the next full council meeting, which is Tuesday, February 21st. Like the other 2 appointments we will consider at that meeting. You do not need to attend in person. You are, of course, more than welcome to attend in person, but we look forward to that final confirmation and to continuing to work with you in this capacity. So thank you so much for joining us today. And with that, we have closed out our appointments portion of the meeting, and we'll move on to item 4. Will the clerk please read item 4 into the record?
Item 4, Resolution 32084, a resolution relating to Seattle Parks and Recreation, authorizing the Superintendent of Parks and Recreation to act as the authorized representative/agent on behalf of the City of Seattle and to legally bind the City of Seattle with respect to certain projects for which the city seeks grant funding assistance managed through the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office for briefing, discussion, and possible vote.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We have some presenters here from the Seattle Parks and Recreation. And is this going to be a conversation, Christopher, that you're going to kick off as well for the panel? So I will hand it off to Chief of Staff Christopher Williams to introduce the rest of the panel and walk us through this presentation. We're also joined by central staff on this item, I believe. Tracy Ratzliff from Council Central Staff. Yes. So Christopher, I'll hand it over to you, and then we can bring in Tracy as appropriate to talk about the resolution. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Member. So again, I'm here on behalf of AP Diaz, who couldn't be here today. Grants are really important to the department. We view them as a financially responsible step in managing public funds to at least make an attempt to leverage outside funding against park district dollars, major maintenance funding, REIT funding. So this is part of how we have operated in the past and will continue to operate. We're here today because the RCO, state and city require us to seek authorization before we submit grant requests. They want to know that our legislative body is on board with these grants before we apply for them. And we are seeking a resolution here today. You're going to hear from Moshe Hecht, who works in our grants and contracts section. The park department has been successful over the years of applying for and receiving more than 100 park improvement grants from various sources, mainly through RCO. These grants have funded millions of dollars in capital redevelopment projects. We greatly appreciate this connection to outside funding. It supports our mission. It supports healthy people, a thriving environment, and vibrant communities for all Seattle residents. So with that, I will hand it off to Moshe Hecht.
All right, thank you, Christopher. Can you all hear me all right? Great, thank you. So my name is Moshe Hecht, and I'm the grant manager for Seattle Parks and Recreation. The Recreation Conservation Office has been a longtime financial supporter of Seattle's park system. Actually, we should probably move to slide 2 while I'm talking here. Thank you. And they provide funding to help us complete capital projects. Since RCO began in 1964, it has awarded more than $2.6 billion in grants to more than 10,000 projects across the state. On average, they award 270 competitive grants for $78 million on a biennium cycle. Each project they invest in must be maintained in perpetuity for the purposes for which funding is sought. As part of the application process, we are required to submit an adopted resolution authorizing us to apply for funding. This resolution must be returned to RCO no later than April 21st. Next slide, please. In the spring and summer of 2022, we have submitted 11 grants to RCO. Sorry, 11 applications. I am very proud to say that in the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program category, our Rainier Beach Skate Park application was selected as the best project to invest in out of 59 applications for funding. And in the Youth Athletic Field category, Soundview Playfield was selected as the best project out of 34 applications. Although the state legislature has yet to approve all the funding, we expect to receive about $5.8 million in funding from RCO to help us complete these 5 projects. Next slide, please. This cycle of funding opportunities is focused on boating and trail projects. We submitted 4 applications, 2 in the boating facilities program, 1 in the recreational trails program, and 1 in the trails, non-highway, and off-road vehicles activities program. Next slide, please. When determining which projects to apply for funding, we typically look at availability of matching funds, location in an equity zone, fit with the grant programs, community support, timeline, conceptual design, if the project is listed in an SPR planning document, and the urgency to replace or repair the asset. Next slide, please. Stan Sayers is at the north end of Genesee Park in Southeast Seattle. It is home to Seattle's iconic Seafair hydroplane races and Seattle Parks and Recreation's Boating and Sailing Center. This park has been used for boating for over 75 years and is crucial to Seattle's vibrant boating community. The current boat launch is old and in disrepair. Here you can see a photo of a pothole roughly 8 feet wide, preventing people from being able to launch their boats into Lake Washington. In 2016, we received $200,000 from RCO to help pay for the planning of the project. Now we are applying for $820,000 to help pay for the repairs. The project will add boarding floats to existing piers, rebuild the launch apron, make ADA accessibility improvements, and remove creosote contaminated timbers from the lake. Next slide, please. South Leschi is located across from Leschi Park, about a mile north of I-90. The existing timber pier is at the end of its useful life and needs replacing to maintain public access to the water. To create a vibrant community and maintain public access, the new design will provide transient moorage at the site, allowing boaters to moor for up to 72 hours. Boaters will be able to visit the Leschi neighborhood, and downtown is just 12 minutes by bus. Currently, there are no publicly held transient moorages in Seattle on Lake Washington. In 2016, we received $200,000 from RCO to help pay for the planning of the project. Now we are applying for $1 million to help pay for the project, which will install an ADA gangway to wave attenuating floats, install utility poles for transient boaters. To ensure a thriving environment and keep our waters clean, the old creosote contaminated pier will be removed, and we are installing pump out station. Next slide, please. Discovery Park South Beach is possibly the most popular trail in Seattle. In 2019, on average, 3,222 hikers passed a nearby eco counter daily for a total of 1,176,030 annual passes by the counter. This trail keeps people healthy. Regrettably, the existing trail is threatened by several irreparable forces, including condemned viewpoints, rotting box steps, failing safety fences, and threats to the trail from possible slides on the bluff. We have 2 applications in for this project, $150,000 in the Recreational Trails Program and $182,111 in the Trails Non-Motorized Off-Road Vehicles Activities Program. This project will reroute the South Beach Trail, improves accessibility, restores habitat, and install new viewpoints of the Puget Sound. Next slide, please. Here's a summary of this round's applications. We are applying for just over $2 million in funding, and SPR is supplying just over $5 million in previously appropriated matching dollars for these projects. Next slide, please. And here you can see the dollar value we are applying for in each of the RCO categories. Next slide, please. I presented the 2 boating projects earlier this morning to the Boating Facilities Funding Board, and I will present to the RCO Trail Board later this month. The RCO Board will approve preliminary rankings on April 1st, and the legislation before you today is due to RCO by April 21st, and grant awards will be made June 30th. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Tracy, well, first off, is that the entire presentation from Parks?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'll turn over for a moment here to Tracy on Council Central staff, if anything else for Central staff to add before we open the conversation up to Council colleagues.
I don't really know. Nope, they've done a good job of covering the projects and what the proposals are for each one.
Great. Excellent. Are there questions from Council colleagues? Councilmember Herbold.
Just a point of curiosity, and if you covered it, I apologize. The RCO match that's required, is there a percentage match? I noticed for some, it wasn't a 1-for-1, it was under, and for some it was double, and just curious as to what the rate is, if there is a requirement.
There is a minimum of a 25% match. And depending on how much of a match you get, you actually score higher in your application. And the maximum request in the boating facilities program is $1 million. And so for some projects, we just requested the most that we could, for example. And we actually, because of the total dollar value of the project, we get extra points. So there's a very good match percentage there.
Thank you.
So that's how it works. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Are there other questions from Council Central or from council members for Central staff or for the presentation? Okay, I don't see any. I don't really have any additional questions given the thoroughness of the presentation and the history of the authority that we've just gone over through the PowerPoint. I'm happy to call the question on the resolution and recommend it to the full council at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and move the committee recommend passage of resolution 32084. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll on the passage of the resolution?
Councilmember Herbold.
Yes.
Council President Juarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Morales.
Yes.
Councilmember Mosqueda.
Aye.
Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Chair, there are 5 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, with that, I will go ahead and say that the resolution passes and we will consider it at the next full council meeting, which will be Tuesday, February 21st. And with that, colleagues, there's no other items of business that are on our agenda. I do anticipate hearing the formal nomination for the confirmation of Superintendent Diaz at a meeting in short order. His materials were recently transmitted to the committee, so we can begin that process of formally considering making the superintendent official and permanent and no longer being under that interim status. So I look forward to taking that up in the next couple of weeks as we work with the mayor's office to find a good time for a hearing. It also looks like we will be able to potentially make time for a presentation at the next meeting from the Just Care program to go over some of the ongoing research and assessment the University of Washington has been making of that program and to present some of those findings to the committee. So a lot that will be going on as we continue through this year's work plan. Very much appreciate being able to get through these matters this afternoon. Is there anything for the good of the order from colleagues? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and say that this meeting at 2:47 is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.